My name is Natalie Brooks, and I'm 35 years old. On paper, I am the kind of woman banks love. Neat credit score, a healthy retirement account, no late payments, no drama that can't be captured in a spreadsheet cell. I'm a database administrator for a mid-sized company. My days are queries, indexes, and people insisting it's probably just a glitch, while I quietly trace the exact decision 3 weeks ago that broke everything today. I don't chase adrenaline, I chase stability, clean code, clean numbers, the feeling of knowing every dollar that comes in and every dollar that goes out. My house matches that energy. Two-story, nothing flashy from the outside, neutral walls, furniture that cleared both a coupon code and a budget spreadsheet before I bought it. The deed is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. The utilities are in my name. Even the chipped mugs in the kitchen cabinet sit next to a color-coded budget binder that knows every due date, every automatic transfer, every quiet little sacrifice I've made to build something solid. There is exactly one chaotic variable in my life. His name is Ethan Cole. Ethan is 33 and calls himself a freelance design consultant. What that mostly means is that he has a very curated Instagram and occasionally gets paid to tell someone their guest room needs a different paint color. His income is aspirational. My income pays for our actual life. We'd been together 5 years. 2 years into dating, he moved into my house temporarily and somehow temporarily turned into his stuff in my closet, his shoes by my front door, his toothbrush in my bathroom. I pay the mortgage. I pay the utilities. I pay for the Lexus he drives, leased in my name, monthly payments pulled from my checking. I buy the groceries. And because we're a team, I gave him an authorized user card on my premium credit card. That was my biggest mistake. The card was supposed to be for household expenses. Groceries, gas, emergency takeout when I worked late and couldn't face cooking. For a while, it was fine. Then groceries became groceries plus wine. Then wine became a $90 bottle because my clients expect a certain lifestyle. Household expenses turned into $400 lunches for networking, spa days, boutiques, weekend consulting trips that somehow cost more than my monthly mortgage. Every time I tried to talk about it, it turned into the same argument. Ethan, the Amex bill was over $6,000 last month, I said one night, budget binder open on the table. We can't keep doing this. He rolled his eyes, scrolling on his phone. Are you going to spreadsheet me again, Nat? Yes, I said flatly, because numbers don't lie. You spent more eating lunch and getting massages than I spent on the entire mortgage. He tossed his phone aside and leaned back in his chair, giving me that look like I was the one being unreasonable. I have to look a certain way for my clients. It's called investing in my brand. Your brand is draining my retirement, I said. We're not saving anything. You're the provider, he snapped. You like being the responsible one. Stop being so cheap. It's a bad look. He was good, too good, at twisting it around until I felt like I was the one failing. Like wanting stability made me selfish. I kept telling myself it was just a phase, that his business would pick up, that creative careers are slow at first, that love requires patience. Then came the chairs. He found them in some ultra-curated antique catalog he left casually open on the coffee table. 2 asymmetrical Italian lounge chairs with a name that sounded like a designer cologne. The Vespucci chairs, he sighed, running his fingers over the glossy photo. These are everything, Nat. They'd completely transform this room. I glanced at the price and actually laughed. $18,000 for chairs. They're an investment, he said immediately. They'll appreciate. And think of how they'd look in your Zoom background when you're on calls. Power, taste, it's a brand statement for both of us. I don't need chairs to show my worth, I said. And even if I did, $18,000 is a down payment on a rental property. It's a max 401k contribution. It's no. The answer is no, Ethan. He didn't argue right then. He just closed the catalog with a little shrug, like it wasn't a big deal. That was Monday. On Wednesday, I was in the middle of a meeting explaining a migration plan to a VP who nodded like he understood but absolutely did not when my phone buzzed on the table. An alert from my credit card app. Charge approved, $18,000. Milano Mano Antiques. My brain went white for a second. The room kept moving, people talking, a slide changing on the projector, but all I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears. I slid the phone face down, finished the meeting on autopilot, and somehow didn't scream. Driving home, I rehearsed every version of the conversation we were about to have. Calm, reasonable Natalie. Furious. Betrayed Natalie. The Natalie who should have listened to that tiny voice months ago when the first $400 lunch showed up. He was in the living room when I walked in, barefoot in a robe that cost more than my entire outfit, swirling a glass of expensive wine I didn't remember buying. "You bought the chairs," I said. I didn't even take my coat off. He didn't look up from his magazine. "I did. They'll be here next week. You're going to lose your mind when you see them in person. This room is going to look like a spread in a design magazine." "I told you no," I said, my voice shaking. $18,000, Ethan, on my card, after I explicitly said no. He finally set the magazine down and turned toward me with that cool, dismissive expression that always made me feel 12 years old and ridiculous. "Don't be dramatic," he said. "It's just money. It's on your card. You can afford it. It's not like you're broke." "It's my card," I said. "It's my money. That limit exists because I worked for it. How can you be this irresponsible?" The sneer appeared, small, sharp, mean. "What's yours is mine, Natalie. That's what being partners means. You're my girlfriend. Your money is our money. Stop being so controlling. It's just chairs." There it was. What's yours is mine. Something inside me, some little mechanism that had been grinding under strain for years, just broke, cleanly, quietly. The part of my brain that made excuses for him, that whispered, "He's just stressed," or "He'll change," went silent. I looked at him, in the robe I'd paid for, in the house I'd bought, drinking wine I'd purchased, after he'd just spent $18,000 of my money like it was nothing. And I smiled. A calm, slow, terrifying smile I barely recognized as my own. "You're right," I said softly. "You're absolutely right. That's what being partners means. I'm sorry I was being controlling." His shoulders relaxed. His mouth curled into a smug little grin. "Good. I'm glad you finally get it. Now, be a doll and top me off. My glass is empty." I walked over, poured his wine. I kissed the top of his head like I always did. "I'm going to work in my office for a bit," I murmured. "Big project." He waved me off without looking. "Don't stay up too late. I want to show you some fabric swatches later." I went down the hall, closed my office door, and this time I locked it. Then I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and got to work. "What's yours is mine." "Okay," I whispered. "Let's see how you like that in reverse." I logged into the credit card portal first. The transaction was sitting there, taunting me, along with a $1,200 charge from some boutique and an $850 charge from a spa. Total damage in 3 days, a little over $20,000. I didn't cancel his card. That would be loud, obvious, the kind of move that starts screaming matches. Instead, I went to the authorized user settings and slid his individual spending limit down as far as it would go. $200. Effective immediately. Next, the Lexus. I logged into the leasing portal. The car was leased entirely in my name, payments pulled from my personal account. I couldn't magically end the lease, but I could adjust the insurance. I pulled the comprehensive and collision coverage, leaving only the bare minimum liability required by law for now. It would force the leasing company's hand and give me leverage with a lawyer. Then I opened my bank. The household checking account, really just a side account I'd named that way, showed a comfortable balance. Ethan's card pulled from there for groceries and everyday stuff. I transferred 95% of that balance into a brand new high-yield savings account at a different bank, in my name only. I left $500 in the old account, enough to do almost nothing in Ethan's version of reality. Finally, I opened my email. Subject line, consultation request, dissipation of partnership assets. Recipient, Thorne and Associates, asset protection, family law. I typed out a summary of the last few years. I attached screenshots, the chair charge, the spa, the boutique, a photo of the Lexus lease in my name. I didn't write about feelings. I wrote about dates, amounts, patterns. When I hit send, I felt nothing. No guilt, no fear, just a cold, clean kind of focus. Down the hall, I heard Ethan laughing at something on TV, the clink of his glass on the coffee table. In 2 days, some attorney would open my email. In a week, the chairs would arrive. And when they did, Ethan was going to find out what it really meant when I said I was done being his provider. Ms. Thorne replied the next morning. Her assistant's email was short and terrifyingly efficient. Ms. Thorne has availability for a virtual consultation at 4 p.m. today. Please confirm. I confirmed before I even finished reading the line. All day at work, I moved through my tasks like a ghost. I answered emails, joined meetings, nodded at the right times. But in the back of my mind, there was a countdown clock ticking toward 4 o'clock p.m., toward a conversation that could split my life into before and after. At 3:58, I closed my office door at home, set my laptop on the desk, and logged into the meeting link. My reflection stared back at me for a second. Dark circles, flat expression, a woman who looked like she hadn't slept in years, not days. Then Ms. Thorne appeared. She was mid-40s, maybe, in a soft-looking cashmere sweater and glasses that made her eyes look too sharp for comfort. Her background was all framed degrees and neatly stacked files. "Natalie," she said. "Yes," I replied, my voice thinner than I wanted. "Hi." She smiled, professional but not warm. "I've read your email. You're a database administrator, correct?" "Yes." "Good. We're going to speak in numbers." Something unclenched in my chest a little. "Okay. Let me summarize to make sure I understand," she said, glancing at a file just off screen. "You and Ethan registered as domestic partners 3 years ago. Your house was purchased before that. The deed and mortgage remain solely in your name. You are the primary account holder on the credit card. He is an authorized user. In the last several years, he's used that card for increasingly extravagant personal expenses, and 3 days ago, he charged approximately $20,000, including an $18,000 furniture purchase you explicitly forbade. Correct?" "Yes," I said. Hearing it out loud made my face burn. "And you have text messages where you told him no on the chairs." "I do." "Excellent," she said. And it was the first time I'd ever heard that word in reference to this mess. Here's the key. The credit card debt is yours in the eyes of the bank. But in the eyes of the court, this kind of spending is classic dissipation of partnership assets. He spent wildly, in spite and in disregard of your objections, for his sole benefit. "So, that means what exactly?" I asked. "It means we can argue that, in the dissolution, the debt associated with those charges should be allocated to him. In practice, you will likely pay the bank, but we will deduct that entire amount from his share of any assets before he sees a cent." She paused. "But timing is everything. You need to file to dissolve the partnership immediately. The date of separation creates a line in the sand. Anything he does after that, all his." A line in the sand. I'd spent 5 years blurring lines for him. The idea of one clear, sharp boundary felt unreal. "You're sure I should file?" I asked quietly. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "You've been financially supporting a lifestyle you don't participate in and did not consent to. He will not stop. You need the court's help to draw the boundary he refuses to see." "What happens to the house?" "Separate property," she said, "but we'll likely have to share part of the increased equity since the partnership. Don't worry about that yet. Right now, your job is to protect yourself. I'll have the petition drafted today. We'll arrange to have him served tomorrow." "Tomorrow," I swallowed. "At the house?" "At the house," she confirmed. "You won't have to be present when he's served. But given his entitlement, I'd like you to be somewhere safe. Your locked office is fine." We went over documents, signatures, next steps. It was all very calm, very procedural, like we were planning a database migration instead of dismantling my relationship. When the call ended, I sat there for a long time, staring at my reflection on the black screen. This is happening, I thought. You're not just fantasizing about leaving. You're actually doing it. I didn't sleep much that night. The next day, I threw myself into work. It was quarter end, which meant chaos. And chaos is something I understand. Numbers misbehaving I can fix. People misbehaving. Less so. Around 1 in the afternoon, my phone buzzed on my desk. "Ethan," I answered, forcing my voice into neutral. "Hey." He didn't even bother with hello. "Nat, my card just got declined." "Which card?" I asked, though I already knew. "The Amex," he snapped. "I'm at lunch with my mom, and it said, limit exceeded. This place is not cheap. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is?" I put a hand over my eyes, thankful he couldn't see my face. "That's weird," I said slowly. "I used mine this morning for gas. No issues." "Well, mine didn't go through," he said. I could hear clinking dishes and low conversation in the background. "Maybe your little fraud alert theory was right. Call them, now." "I'm literally in the middle of a server migration," I lied smoothly. "I can't sit on hold with them right this second. Just use the household debit card." He huffed. Fine. He hung up on me. I stared at the call log for a moment, then slowly set the phone down, heart ticking like a clock. 3 minutes later, it rang again. What did you do? He demanded, his voice pitched higher. What do you mean? I asked. The debit card was declined, he said. $250. Insufficient funds. Do you know how that looks? That sounds scary, I said, keeping my tone mild. Someone must have gotten our card info. Don't worry, I'll lock everything down and move the money. We can't be too careful, right? You know how many scams are out there. My mother had to pay, he hissed. My mother, you humiliated me. I'm just protecting our assets, I murmured. Like you said, what's mine is yours. I have to protect ours. For a moment, there was complete silence on the line. Then he swore under his breath and hung up. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. 2 hours later, an email pinged into my inbox. Petition filed. Service scheduled for tomorrow, 2:00 p.m. Tomorrow. I went home that evening to a house that felt like a stage right before the curtain rises. Every sound seemed too loud. The refrigerator's hum, the tick of the hallway clock, Ethan's footsteps above me. He was in the kitchen with his mother, Brenda, when I walked in. The smell of something rich and buttery clung to the air. They stopped talking when they saw me. Brenda crossed her arms. You really embarrassed him today, you know, cutting him off in the middle of lunch. I didn't cut him off, I said evenly. The bank did. Fraud alert, probably. She scoffed. You always have an excuse. Ethan leaned against the counter, watching me with narrowed eyes. You're playing some kind of game, Nat. Don't forget what you have. It's ours now. I looked at the two of them, the entitled son and the mother who'd spent his whole life protecting him from consequences, and felt something like pity. Brief, sharp, gone. I'm going to my office, I said. Big project. They could roll their eyes all they wanted. In less than 24 hours, a process server would be ringing our doorbell. The next day, right on schedule, the bell rang at 2 p.m. I was in my office, door locked, heart hammering in my throat. Through the wall, I could hear muffled voices. Are you Ethan Cole? A man asked. Yeah, Ethan said cautiously. You've been served. There was a beat of confusion. I could picture Ethan's face screwing up as he took the envelope. What is this? He demanded. Brenda's voice, shriller. Who is that? What are you handing him? Let me see. There was the unmistakable crackle of paper, the rustle of pages being flipped faster and faster. Then a shriek. Natalie! Ethan's footsteps thundered down the hall. He rattled my office door so hard it shook. Open this door! Open the door, you coward! I stayed seated, hands folded in my lap, staring at the wood grain. You're dissolving the partnership? He yelled. You're divorcing me? Technically, we're not married, I called through the door, my voice surprisingly steady. We registered as domestic partners. This is just the legal process for ending it. Brenda's voice cut in, vibrating with fury. You ungrateful little girl. Ethan gave you his best years. You can't just throw him away. He gets half of everything. The house, your retirement, all of it. That's the law. I stood and opened the door just enough to look at them. Ethan's face was purple. Brenda's lips were a hard, thin line. The envelope in Ethan's hand trembled from how tightly he was gripping it. This house, I said quietly, was mine before I even met him. The deed is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. But you're right. I can't just throw him out. Not yet. I glanced at my ex, my almost ex. So here's how this is going to work. I'll be staying in the guest room. You can stay in the master, Ethan. You can both stay in the kitchen, the living room, wherever you want. You cut me off, he spat. That's financial abuse. A judge will destroy you for this. I haven't cut you off, I said. I've set boundaries. You're welcome to get a job to pay for your $18,000 chairs. His eyes flashed. They're my chairs. About that, I said softly. You might want to be home on Friday. Delivery day. Friday came with grim punctuality. Around 10 in the morning, a large truck pulled up in front of the house. 2 delivery guys in matching polos and white gloves hopped out, checking a clipboard. Ethan practically vibrated to the door, all smug rage replaced by bubbling excitement. They're here, he crowed. Finally, something that will stay mine no matter what you do. I stepped onto the porch ahead of him. Hi, one of the delivery men said. We've got a delivery for... He checked the paper. Ethan Cole, 2 Vespucci lounge chairs. Right, I said. About that, I'm afraid there's a problem. The purchase is being disputed by the primary cardholder. We'll have to refuse delivery. What? Ethan shoved past me. No. I bought them. They're paid for. Bring them in. The closer delivery guy looked between us, clearly wishing he were anywhere else. "We need the homeowner's signature," he said carefully. "And if the card holder is disputing—" "She's not disputing anything," Ethan snapped. "She's just being petty. Bring them in." "The charge was made without my consent," I said calmly. I told him no. "I've already notified the card company. I won't be accepting $18,000 of furniture I didn't authorize. I'm refusing delivery. I'm sorry you wasted your time." The two men exchanged a look and then turned back to the truck. "Ma'am, if you're refusing delivery, we have to take them back," the second one said, more to Ethan than to me. "You can't do this," Ethan screamed, his voice cracking. "Those are my chairs. They're an investment. They're a very expensive lesson," I said softly. As the chairs were loaded back into the truck, Ethan's composure shattered. He started screaming, really screaming, high and raw, words dissolving into sound. "You will pay for this," he howled. "You've ruined my life. Those were my chairs, my future, my—" The truck pulled away. The street fell quiet again. He stood in the driveway, chest heaving, bare feet on sun-warmed concrete, looking suddenly very small. That was the day the petty tricks turned into something uglier. 2 days later, I got a notification on my phone. A hard inquiry had hit my credit report from a Mercedes-Benz dealership. For a second, I thought it was a mistake. Then the truth snapped into place so fast it made my stomach lurch. He'd tried to trade in the Lexus. My Lexus, the one leased in my name, with my credit, my signature. He'd walked into a dealership and attempted to leverage my good standing for a shiny new car before the legal paperwork froze everything. I forwarded the alert to Ms. Thorne with a single line. "Is this as bad as it looks?" She called me 10 minutes later, laughing in disbelief. "Oh, he is dumber than I thought," she said. "This is attempted fraud, Natalie. We're requesting a temporary financial restraining order first thing in the morning. After that, neither of you can open new lines of credit or make purchases over $500 without mutual consent." "So he's boxed in," I said. "Utterly," she replied. "And we have a growing pattern. Unauthorized luxury spending, refusal to respect boundaries, attempted car fraud, and, if I'm not mistaken, he's already tried to weaponize his humiliation with his mother against you." I looked down the hallway toward the closed master bedroom door, behind which I could hear faint music and Brenda's voice. "Yeah," I said quietly. "That sounds about right." I hung up and went back to my office. The house around me felt toxic, every room saturated with resentment and entitlement. But inside my locked office, with my laptop glowing and Ms. Thorne's email chain open and tidy, there was something else. Order. A plan. For the first time in years, I wasn't just reacting to Ethan's chaos. I was 3 moves ahead. The next few weeks turned into a silent war fought across shared walls and locked doors. Ethan and Brenda decided that if they couldn't win in court, they'd win through sheer annoyance. The house became a battlefield, one where every act of pettiness was a declaration of war. They cooked elaborate, foul-smelling meals, fish, curry, something fermented that clung to the air for days, and left the dirty pots out for me to clean. They blasted music at 3 a.m., the kind of bass-heavy electronic noise that vibrated through drywall. They took long showers until the water heater screamed, then accused me of sabotaging the temperature. It was childish, and honestly, effective for a while. But I adapted. I bought noise-canceling headphones, a mini fridge, and a small microwave, and moved them into my locked office. I kept my door closed, ate simple meals at my desk, and listened to white noise playlists that sounded like thunderstorms. Every petty stunt they pulled, I documented and quietly forwarded to Ms. Thorne. She said to keep it all. Dates, photos, everything, for the record. "People like him always hang themselves," she said. "You just have to give them enough rope." Sometimes, in the quiet hours after midnight, I'd hear them laughing downstairs. It wasn't happy laughter. It was sharp, mean, the sound of 2 people who believed cruelty was power. And I'd remember the early days, when Ethan used to cook dinner for us, back before consulting trips and brand expenses, back before he saw me as a wallet with a pulse. One night, while scrolling through old emails, I stumbled across a message I'd forgotten. It was from Lila, Ethan's ex-girlfriend. She'd sent it months after Ethan and I moved in together. The subject line read, "Please don't make the same mistake I did." At the time, I'd deleted it unread. Now, curiosity, or maybe masochism, made me dig it out of my archive and open it. "Hi, Natalie. You don't know me well, but I dated Ethan for a couple years before you did. I'm not reaching out to start drama. I just feel like you should know who you're dealing with. He's charming, yes. He'll make you feel like you're saving him. But watch your accounts. Watch your credit. He likes luxury more than loyalty. I learned that too late. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's changed. But if things ever start to feel off, trust your instincts, please. Lila. I read it twice, then sat back, numb. She had warned me, and I'd ignored it because Ethan told me she was crazy, obsessed, still hung up on him. Of course he did. I closed my laptop and stared at the ceiling for a long time. The smell of burnt garlic drifted through the door. Somewhere down the hall, Brenda laughed, and I promised myself I'd never ignore a warning again. 2 weeks later, the war escalated. I came home from work one evening to find 2 police officers standing on the porch. Ethan sat on the steps, head in his hands, voice breaking between sobs. When he looked up at me, his eyes were red-rimmed, but glittering with triumph. "She's here," he said to the officers. "That's her." "Ma'am," one officer said, his hand resting casually on his belt, "we received a call from your partner. He says you've locked him out of parts of the house, restricted his access to money, and threatened him." I blinked. What? Ethan stood, voice trembling with practiced fear. "She locked me out of the office, the guest room, everything. She took all the money, all the accounts. I can't eat, I can't sleep. She's trying to starve me out." "Sir," I said calmly, "you are standing on the porch of a house that is 90% accessible to you. I've locked my personal office and the guest room where I sleep. You have the master bedroom, the kitchen, and every other part of this house." "She's lying," he shouted. "She's manipulating everything." I turned to the officers, keeping my tone even. "We are in the middle of a legal dissolution. I filed after he charged $20,000 to my personal credit card, including an $18,000 purchase I told him not to make." I pulled out my phone, already open to the screenshots. "Here's the transaction. Here's the petition I filed. Here's the restraining order that bars him from making large purchases without my consent." I handed the phone to the nearest officer. He scrolled, frowned, and then exchanged a look with his partner. Ethan was trembling now, but not from fear, from rage. "She's abusive," he spat. "She's ruining my life." The older officer sighed. "Sir, this is a civil matter. You need to talk to your lawyer. We can't arrest her for locking her office." "Are you kidding me?" Ethan's voice cracked. "You're just going to let her—" The officer shook his head. "Sir, you need to step back." They handed my phone back to me. "Ma'am, this sounds like a complicated separation. If anything physical happens, call us. Otherwise, good luck." When they left, the porch light caught Ethan's face, red, blotchy, humiliated. He looked like a man watching the last illusion of control slip through his fingers. He turned to me, voice shaking. "You think you've won, don't you?" I didn't answer. He kicked the porch railing so hard it cracked, then stormed inside. That night, I sat in my office, heart pounding, and added another line to my growing list of documentation. False police report filed. Emotional instability escalating. A week later, Ms. Thorne called. "Good news," she said. "The financial restraining order has held, and the court date for mediation is set. He'll have to sit across from you. Bring every document." "Will it end there?" I asked. "All of this?" "It might," she said. "But men like Ethan rarely go quietly. They usually make one last move, something dramatic, emotional, stupid." "Then I'll be ready," I said. "Good," she replied, with the faintest hint of approval. "You're learning." The following nights blurred together in quiet tension. Ethan barely spoke to me. Brenda moved around the house like a ghost, giving me dagger looks. Sometimes I'd find sticky notes on the fridge in Brenda's looping handwriting. "You're a cruel woman. He'll never forgive you." I'd peel them off, crumple them, and throw them away without a word. In the silence, I started to feel something I hadn't in months. Peace. It wasn't joy. It wasn't relief. It was the absence of chaos, the first sign that life might eventually be mine again. And then, one afternoon, a new email from Ms. Thorne appeared in my inbox. Subject: mediation confirmed. Monday, 9:00 a.m. 3 words. The end was finally in sight. That weekend, Ethan tried one last time to break me. He stood in the hallway outside my office, voice calm but cold. "You're not going to win," he said. "You think you've got everything figured out, but the court will see what you did. You took advantage of me." I didn't look up. "You took advantage of me for 5 years, Ethan." He laughed, low and bitter. "You love control more than you love anyone. That's why you'll end up alone." "Maybe," I said softly, "but at least I'll be free." His expression twisted, the words hitting somewhere he didn't want them to. He turned and walked away without another word. When the front door slammed behind him, the house went still. And for the first time, I realized that stillness wasn't loneliness. It was the sound of peace fighting its way back in. Mediation day. A gray Monday morning that smelled like coffee, rain, and something ending. The conference room was small, sterile, and cold. The kind of place where people quietly dismantle their lives in front of strangers. On one side sat me and Ms. Thorne, calm and composed in her tailored navy suit. Across from us were Ethan and his lawyer, a loud, underprepared man in an ill-fitting jacket who'd clearly been coached by Brenda. Brenda herself sat in the corner, arms crossed, glaring at me as if sheer hatred could rewrite the facts. I didn't look at any of them. I kept my eyes on the folder in front of me. Spreadsheets, receipts, credit reports, screenshots. My armor. The mediator cleared his throat. Let's begin. Ethan's lawyer started talking before the mediator even finished. My client, he said loudly, is seeking a fair settlement. He contributed significantly to the household in non-financial ways. He demands the house, 50% of Ms. Brooks' retirement accounts, and $10,000 a month in permanent support. Additionally, she must absorb all partnership debt, as she was the sole provider. Ms. Thorne didn't even flinch. She just smiled faintly, the way a chess player does when she sees the endgame 5 moves ahead. To clarify, she said evenly, Mr. Cole did not contribute to household finances. The house is Ms. Brooks' separate property, purchased before the partnership, solely in her name. We are, however, prepared to offer a 50-50 split of the increased equity during the partnership period, along with half of the 401k growth since registration. Ethan's lawyer frowned. And the debt? Ms. Thorne's eyes glittered. Ah, yes, the $20,000 credit card debt. She turned a page in her folder and slid a printed statement forward. This was incurred in the days immediately preceding the dissolution, after Ms. Brooks explicitly forbade the purchase. It includes an $18,000 charge for 2 luxury chairs and additional personal expenses. We classify this as a dissipation of partnership assets. The mediator looked over his glasses. Do you have evidence that she forbade the purchase? Ms. Thorne smiled like a cat about to show off its catch. We do. She placed printed text messages on the table. Ethan's own words stared back at him. Stop being controlling. What's yours is mine. That's what being partners means. The room went quiet. Then she continued, almost lazily. Following that, Mr. Cole attempted to trade in a leased Lexus registered in Ms. Brooks's name for a new Mercedes-Benz, without her consent. We have the credit inquiry here. She set down the credit report. He then filed a false police report accusing Ms. Brooks of financial abuse and domestic control. The officers found no evidence of either claim. 2 business cards slid neatly onto the table, each with a police badge printed on them. Ethan's face had gone pale. His lawyer stammered, This is irrelevant to asset division. On the contrary, Ms. Thorne said smoothly, it establishes a pattern of financial misconduct and bad faith. My client is willing to not pursue criminal charges for attempted fraud or defamation. In exchange, the full $20,000 debt will be assigned to Mr. Cole in the settlement. The mediator looked at Ethan. Mr. Cole, do you wish to respond? Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came out. Brenda whispered something furious in his ear, but he didn't move. He just sat there, staring at the papers in front of him, the receipts, the text messages, the evidence of his own undoing. After a long silence, Ms. Thorne leaned forward, her tone precise. Here's our offer, summarized. The house will be sold. Ms. Brooks will retain her pre-partnership equity. The increase in value during the partnership will be split equally. The 401k accrued during the partnership will be split equally. Mr. Cole will assume or surrender the Lexus lease. The $20,000 credit debt will be allocated to him, deducted from his portion before distribution. In return, Mrs. Brooks will not pursue additional claims. The mediator nodded. It's a clear offer. Mr. Cole, do you accept? Ethan's lawyer muttered something about needing a recess, but Ethan didn't respond. He just whispered, I can't pay that. I have no money. Then it's simple, Ms. Thorne said. Ms. Brooks will pay the credit card company directly, and that full amount will be deducted from your equity share before the check is issued. Brenda slammed her hand on the table. This is robbery. Ms. Thorne didn't even look at her. No, ma'am, this is accountability. When the mediation ended, the room emptied quickly. Ethan and Brenda left without a word. Ms. Thorne gathered her files and looked at me. "You did well," she said. "Quiet strength wins wars like this." "Did I win?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "You survived with your dignity and your credit. That's more than most." The legal process dragged on for another month. The house sold. The Lexus was surrendered. The math unfolded exactly as Ms. Thorne had predicted. Ethan's share of the equity came to about $65,000. From that, we deducted the $20,050 debt. His legal fees, $2,800 in damage and mileage overages on the Lexus, $5,400 owed to the antique company for a restocking fee after the refused delivery. When all was said and done, his final check was 11,300s. 5 years together. 5 years of arguments, manipulation, and quiet exhaustion, reduced to a check that couldn't even buy one of his precious chairs. A week after the final settlement, I got a voicemail from Brenda. Her voice was trembling with rage. "You're a monster, Natalie. You've destroyed my son's future. You took everything from him. He loved you and you left him with nothing." I deleted it without listening to the rest. Ethan's rehabilitative support was set at $1,500 a month for 2 years, just enough for him to rent a small apartment and, hopefully, learn what work actually felt like. Now, months later, the house is empty. I'm surrounded by boxes, labeling them for the movers. The silence that used to feel heavy now feels sacred. There's no thumping bass at 3 a.m., no smell of burnt garlic, no sneering voice asking what's ours. Just me, the hum of the refrigerator, and the sound of rain against the window. I lost money, I lost time, but I got my life back. A few days ago, while closing the last bank account associated with the house, I saw him again. He was standing in line at the same bank, his mother beside him. They were talking to a young employee at one of those little desks near the window. I recognized the brochure in his hand immediately, a secured credit card, the kind you get when your credit's been scorched. For a second, I just watched them. He looked different, smaller. The arrogance was gone, replaced by the twitchy nervousness of someone who'd learned, finally, that actions have consequences. He looked up and saw me. Our eyes met for a moment. I didn't smile. I didn't glare. I just looked at him, quietly, steadily, until he looked away first. Then I walked out into the sunlight, the automatic doors hissing open like a sigh of relief. That night I found Lila's email again. I typed a short reply. "You were right, thank you." Then I hit send and closed my laptop. In the end, it wasn't revenge I'd wanted. It was freedom. And the freedom, finally, was mine.